Hello, everyone. It's August 23rd, 2026. I'm Cy Marie Johnson, and you are listening to Histories of Horror.
And I'm A.L. Knuckles. Welcome back to Histories of Horror. Tonight we are officially kicking off Season 2. We heard you loud and clear over our break. You wanted us to bring back those chunky, detailed, heavy scripts where we really stretch our legs and dive into every single corner or case of a haunting. The shorter read-throughs are behind us. Starting tonight, we are taking our time with every historic document, eyewitness account, and dark alleyway we encounter.
To mark the start of this new chapter, we are heading to the west, to Boulevard, in Hollywood land specifically, to 7028 Hollywood Boulevard. Built in 1927, the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel was designed as a Spanish colonial revival palace crafted specifically to accommodate the Gilded Age of early cinema. The architecture alone is staggering: soaring archways, hand painted wooded beam ceilings, intricate tile work, and massive crystal chandeliers hanging over polished marble.
The hotel was the brainchild of Hollywood royalty. It was financed by a syndicate that included cinema icons Douglas Fairbanks, Mary Pickford, and a studio titan, Louis B. Mayer. They envisioned a luxurious, private sanctuary where the stars could drink, socialize, and escape the prying eyes of the press. But behind the glamour and structural magnificence lies a far darker, far more permanent legacy. It turns out 702628 Hollywood Boulevard was built over ground that it would hold its guests forever. Some of those golden age icons and unnamed wanderers never checked out.
To truly understand why the Roosevelt Hotel holds on to such a psychic weight, you have to look at the sheer concentration of history that occurred within its walls. On May 16, 1929, the hotel's Blossom Ballroom hosted the very first Academy Awards ceremony. It wasn't the glitzy multi-hour televised production that we see today. It was a private black tie dinner party attended by just 270 people, and the actual presentation of awards lasted a mere 15 minutes.
Yet, despite its brevity, the density of ego, ambition, excitement, and heartbreak in that room was unmatched. When you pack the highest tier of Hollywood power into a single gilded ballroom, you leave an imprint. Decades later, the Blossom Ballroom remains one of the most intense epicenters of paranormal phenomena in Southern California.
Modern guests, banquet staff, and event planners stepping into the Blossom Ballroom late at night routinely report violent, sudden temperature drops. We aren't talking about a subtle breeze from an air conditioning vent. We're talking about dynamic cold spots that drop 20 degrees in seconds and move across the hardwood floors as if tracking an invisible crowd.
The auditory reports are even more unsettling. Security guards patrolling the perimeter after midnight have logged hearing the muffled, echoing sounds of a live 1920s brass jazz band, coming from inside the dark, padlocked ballroom. They hear the clinking of champagne flutes, low conversational hums, and thunderous, phantom applause rolling across the entirely empty room. When they unlock the doors and sweep the floor with flashlights, the room is completely dead, quiet, cold, and vacant.
If there is one specter whose presence defined the Roosevelt's legacy, it is none other than Marilyn Monroe. Long before she was an international sex symbol and household name, a young woman named Norma Jean Baker was signed to a modeling contract and moved right into that very hotel. She lived in Suite 1200, a bright poolside cabana suite, for 2 full years as her career was taking flight. It was her haven during her rise to stardom.
Inside Suite 1200, Monroe kept a large, full-length, oak-framed mirror. Decades after her tragic death in 1962, that exact mirror was removed from the suite during a room refresh and relocated to a manager's office, before eventually being mounted on a wall near the lower level elevator bank for public display.
That relocation is when the encounters exploded. Hotel staff, maintenance workers, and guests waiting for the elevator began seeing a vivid reflection in the glass. They would stand in front of the mirror adjusting their clothes only to see the clear, distinct reflection of a blonde woman wearing a white dress standing directly behind their shoulder.
The entity in the glass doesn't look like a faint shadow. Witnesses describe her as looking entirely solid. But the moment they turn around to look at the physical space between them, there's nobody there. The moment they look back in the mirror, the figure lingers for a few more seconds before fading away. To this day, staff members report that the glass itself remains unnaturally freezing to the touch, constantly radiating a frigid aura regardless of the hallway's ambient temperature.
Moving to the ninth floor, we hit what many paranormal researchers consider the most active, restless spot for intelligent hauntings in the building, room 928. In 1953, the brilliant troubled method actor Montgomery Clift took up residence in room 1928 for 3 months while filming the classic From Here to Eternity.
Clift was famously intense about his craft. To prepare for his role as Private Robert E. Lee Pruitt, a career soldier who played the bugle, Clift spent countless off-duty hours locked inside room 928. Day after day, night after night, he paced the floorboards, practicing his bugle and trumpet scale exercises until his lips bled, determined to look and sound completely authentic on camera.
Decades later, the echoes of his obsessive practice sessions continue to terrorize guests staying in room 928. Night managers routinely receive frantic phone calls from guests complaining that a neighbor is practicing a brass instrument at 2 or 3 in the morning. They describe hearing the exact same short, repetitive musical scale played over and over, starting and stopping in frustration.
When security arrives to check the neighboring rooms, they find them completely empty or filled with sleeping guests. But the phenomena in room 928 isn't just auditory. Guests sleeping in Cliff's former bed report waking up in a cold sweat, feeling an immense physical weight pressing down on their chest as if someone is standing over them. Outside, in the ninth floor hallway, housekeepers have witnessed a shadowy, gaunt male figure pacing back and forth, clutching a phantom instrument and muttering lines under his breath before vanishing near the door of 928.
While the celebrity encounters draw the headlines, the Roosevelt is equally defined by nameless, permanent apparitions tied to its golden era. The most famous non celebrity ghost is an entity known to staff and investigators simply as the man in the fedora.
He is described as by dozens of independent eyewitnesses as an imposing, broad-shouldered man, well over 6 feet tall, dressed in a sharply tailored 1930s double-breasted suit, carrying a vintage leather briefcase and wearing a dark fedora angled down over his face. He is almost exclusively seen in the main lobby, walking with a fast, purposeful stride towards the Blossom Ballroom.
What makes the man in the fedora so unique is how frequently he has been tracked by modern technology. Night shift operators monitoring the hotel's closed circuit security cameras have repeatedly spotted him walking through the lobby on video feeds.
They watch him march straight down the corridor toward locked double doors or solid structural pillars, expecting him to turn around or stop. Instead, on the high-definition video, the figure walks directly through solid wood and drywall without slowing down, leaving the security staff staring at empty hallway monitors. Investigators theory that he was likely a studio executive or a power agent from the 1930s whose daily ritual was so deeply burnt into the floorboards that his energy replays like a looping film reel.
Down at the hotel's famous Tropicana pool, where artist David Hockney famously painted a blue swirling mural on the bottom of the pool floor, the energy shifts from old Hollywood glamour to something far more quiet, eerie, and heartbreaking.
For over 50 years, guests staying in the poolside cabanas and staff working late-night shifts at the outdoor bar have encountered the spirit of a young girl roughly 6 or 7 years old, wearing a vintage 1930s pink ruffle dress.
She is most commonly seen after the pool area closes to the public. Eyewitnesses report hearing the sound of a child giggling or light footsteps skipping across the wet concrete around the pool's edge. When guests go to investigate, expecting to find a lost child who snuck out of her parents' room, the girl turns, looks at them, and vanishes.
There are physical interactions attached to her as well. Solitary guests sitting near the water at night have reported feeling a small, cold, wet hand slip into theirs, only to look down and find nobody there. The following mornings, maintenance crews cleaning the glass partitions around the pool perimeter frequently find tiny, wet handprints pressed into the glass at the child's height, even when no children were checked into the hotel the night before. Local legend suggests she may be the ghost of a guest child who tragically drowned in the original pool during the late 1930s.
From a historical and paranormal standpoint, one of the most compelling aspects of the Roosevelt hauntings is when the activity reached its peak. The hauntings weren't always this vocal. They experienced a massive, terrifying spike during the mid 1980s.
Like many grand 1920s hotels, the Roosevelt suffered a severe decline during the late 1960s and 1970s. It fell out of fashion, the paint peeled, and the building was nearly demolished. In 1985, a major restoration project was launched to strip away decades of cheap remodels and restore the building to its original 1927 glory.
Any experienced paranormal investigator will tell you that heavy construction and structural renovation act like a massive hammer to residual energy. Demolishing walls, tearing up flooring, and moving original fixtures unbinds whatever haunts a property. When construction crews began tearing down false ceilings, stripping plaster, and unearthing original hidden archways, the building effectively woke up.
The construction workers faced the brunt of it. Heavy power tools were unplugged and moved across locked rooms overnight. Dramatic temperature drops turned workers' breath into visible fog in the middle of summer. Multiple workers reported seeing full-bodied apparitions in 1920 attire, walking straight through unbuilt drywall partitions where the original hallways used to exist. The activity became so aggressive that several contractors refused to work the night shifts alone.
The paranormal activity at 7028 Hollywood Boulevard isn't confined to famous spirits or specific rooms. The dark corridors connecting the upper floors are notorious for frequent sightings of shadow people. That is, tall, featureless, pitch black human silhouettes that dart between the decorative floor pillars.
What's remarkable is how consistent these reports are among guests who have zero prior knowledge of the hotel's haunted reputation. International tourists checking in to the suite 1200, for example, regularly report identical high specific experiences without ever knowing Marilyn Monroe once lived there.
Guests consistently report waking up abruptly at a precisely 3:15 a.m., the classic witching hour, feeling a sudden extreme chill in the bedroom. They describe the physical sensation of the mattress sinking down as though an invisible person has just sat down on the edge of the bed beside them.
Simultaneously, the room fills with the overwhelming, unexplainable aroma of a vintage floral perfume, specifically Chanel No. 5, mixed with the faint, sharp smell of fresh cigarette smoke. When the guests turn on the bedside lamps, the smell instantly dissipates and the mattress springs back up. The front desk maintains a detailed internal log of these guest complaints, recording dozens of these near identical stories year after year. When you look at the sheer variety of activity inside the Roosevelt, you realize you are dealing with two entirely distinct types of paranormal phenomena: residual hauntings and intelligent poltergeist-like hauntings.
Residual hauntings are essentially psychic recordings. Events filled with intense emotion, routine, or energy get absorbed by the building's materials the plaster, the wood, the iron and replay like an endless tape loop. Montgomery Clift practicing his scale exercises, the sounds of the 1920s jazz band in the Blossom Ballroom, and the man in the fedora walking his daily route are classic residual hauntings. They don't interact with you, they just play.
But then you have the intelligent, interactive phenomena that cross into poltergeist territory. We are talking about objects sliding smoothly across nightstands in front of witnesses' eyes, landline phones in vacant rooms dialing the front desk with only static on the line, and apparitions in the hallways that make direct eye contact with guests before vanishing.
It paints a fascinating picture. The Roosevelt Hotel isn't just a building that houses old ghosts. It's an energetic sponge that captured the heightened emotions, tragic ends, and intense desires of people who loved the glamour of old Hollywood so much that their consciousness became trapped inside the walls. Kind of reminds you of that song Hotel California.
Yeah. This brings us to the conclusion of our season 2 premiere. We hope you enjoyed this much deeper, chunkier look into one of America's most iconic haunted landmarks. We wanted to make sure we gave this story the time, detail, and room to breathe that it truly deserved.
The Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel stands today as a stunning dual-natured monument. On one hand, it is a living museum of American glamour, architectural brilliance, and cinematic history. On the other hand, it is a dark vault of unfulfilled dreams, tragic ends, and lingering spirits. Whether you view it through the lens of history or the paranormal, there is no denying that something very real walks those halls at night.
We want to thank every single one of you for riding with us into season 2 of Histories of Horror. We have an incredible roster of deep dives, cold cases, and haunting investigations lined up for you in the coming months, and we are just getting started.
Grab your headphones, spread the word, and remember to keep your lights on. Until next time, I'm Cy Marie Johnson.
And I'm A.O. Knuckles. Stay vigilant, check under the bed, and good night.
Good night, and tune in next time to Histories of Horror.